Hello, everybody, and welcome to the See You on the Trail podcast. My name is Hitch. I'll be taking care of you today. Today on the show, we have a lot of information. So go ahead and get that pen and paper out and start taking down notes because this is going to be good. Today on the show, we have Kris Vangilder from ISP, which is Innovative Safety Products. He has been in the industry for, about 20 years now. I met him through a Monster Jam driver that I know pretty well, and through another fab shop. And he set me down the first time I met him and told me why his safety seats were so important to me, and to my safety inside of a race car. And he was able to dumb it down, make it make sense, and do it correctly, and made me want to get one of his seats. If I was racing. And the funny thing is I'm not racing, which I probably never will race. I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but I've been in race cars. I've been in a race before. They beat the crap out of me, and my body's not willing to handle it after about 10 years of bull riding and all the travel time and everything that I did. I'm pretty much done with getting my body beat up. So anyway, but before we jump into that, I want to tell you guys, we are on, I was looking through my stats through the Anchor podcast app. That's where we record all of our stuff. And looks like a lot of you guys are on Apple podcast. So if you guys get a chance, go rate us. Go say something. I don't care if it's something dumb, something stupid. It could be good. It could be bad. Let me know what you guys think. That helps boost our channel up to get more views, to be able to do more of this, to give you more information and more shows. If there's any, I know YouTube, you can actually comment. Facebook, you can actually comment as well. Let us know some of your comments, what you think is good, what you think is bad, what do you think needs to be improved on. Constructive criticism is always welcome at my door, and on my podcast and on any of my videos for that matter. Go to YouTube, check out our library. We've got something like 300 videos up, and it ranges anywhere from Dirt Riot to off-road expos to SEMA to just four-wheeling in general, like the Disney Big Meat Run. That's one of my bigger videos. We also did one with a couple racer friends of mine. We decided to do the Junkyard Wars, and the Junkyard Wars was you had $500 and you had to spend no more than $500 on a beater and run it down the quarter-mile track. We did that. Go look at it. It's called Junkyard Wars on our YouTube page. It was a lot of fun. It was at a local track here, just about a mile from my house. And we got to run like I think it was a 1985 or 1987 Mustang. And the funny thing is we fell into a class that we ended up with the Corvette and got our butts whooped. But they were like I don't remember what the class they called it, but we didn't end up in the class we wanted to be in because we put Ford Explorer heads on this 5.0, and apparently that's not allowed. We didn't know that. But anyway, go watch it. It's hilarious. It goes with Jay Spivey and Aaron Peters, A. Peter, if you've ever met him before. Another Seth Brown, and then Jay's wife, Brandy. We all did it. We had a blast doing it. It was so much fun. So anyway, go check out that video. But anyway, make sure you guys give us a comment on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating. If there's any other way, whatever thing you're listening to right now, we actually distribute to 10 different places. So if you search "See You on the Trail," no spaces, just spell it out, and you'll be able to find us. And if you're listening to us on Anchor or radio podcast, Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, of course, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, but any of those, if you can rate it, do it for us, please. We sure would appreciate it. And honestly, if you're listening to this on one of the podcasting apps, I'm going to release this about 3 or 4 days early, and we're trying this 2 week, every 2 weeks thing. See how it works. See if we can keep everybody scheduled in line. I'm going to release this about 4 or 5 days early. And if you're listening to it on it, you get it early. Now, I'm not going to release it on Facebook or YouTube until the 18th of November. And so this has a lot of good information in it, which is kind of why I wanted to release it early and let you know some of the stuff that I feel within your new build, if you're building for KOH, you need to consider this. There is no price on safety. The expensive cost of going to the doctor is ridiculous. Spinal injuries is a big thing in this podcast. For you to listen to and understand the safety of your seat belts, the safety of your seat, the positioning of the seat belts, everything. This guy, Kris Vangilder, is going to go through with you. His next stop will be at PRI. And you can sit down, and honestly, he has an open door to anything. If you want to talk to him, just give him a call, give him an email, find him on Facebook, and he will personally get back with you. He's a very good guy. I've known him for about 4 or 5 years now. So let's go ahead and bust into that, and I'll see you in about 20, 30 minutes. You guys enjoy the podcast with Kris Vangilder from Innovative Safety Products. All right. Well, hey, we're here with Kris Vangilder, the owner of ISP, Innovative Safety Products. Kris, tell us about yourself, where you're from, and give us a little bit of history on yourself.
Originally I'm from Cleveland. Moved down here to go racing on a pit cruise and stuff when I was, 19 years old. And ended up racing for a while. And then when I got married and had a child, I realized that racing was the number one thing, and that wasn't fair to my new daughter. So I quit the team and I went to building seats, a competitor's company I worked for 13 years. And then I started my own business.
Really? Now, how long has ISP been around?
Going to be 18 years. I started back in 2002. And actually, what I had done when I first got started was I'd already had the attention of General Motors and Ford people. And then the General Motors guys knew that I had started my own company, and they actually offered to give me some sled time. They allowed me to do 8 sled hits. And doesn't sound like much, but when it costs you $5,000 a hit, that was pretty impressive for me. They wanted to see what I had come up with. Mm-hmm. And that was the first of a long line of doing a lot of crash testing.
Yeah. You say sled hits. Now, this is something, it's kind of a new term to me, and I'm sure it is to other people. What is actually a sled hit, and how does that work?
Well, there's 2 ways you can do crash testing. You can barrier hit, which is where you actually run a car into a barrier or a wall, and it's full of telemetry equipment to gauge the impact, the duration of the impact, and everything that happens. Or you can replicate, which what I mean replicate is we can actually take data out of a black box, let's say NASCAR, who has black boxes in every vehicle, and actually go to the high G sled lab and reenact the whole incident. And a high G sled is, imagine a 12-inch piston, solid rod that will shoot about a 4x8 surface plate at 3,600 feet per second. That's basically what a high G sled is. And they can control the impact by the length and the speed that they shoot it out. And it's the high G impact is a very reputitious way to do your testing, and it's very controlled.
Wow. Now, you said 3,600 feet per second?
Yep, just like a 30-06.
Okay, so that's, you're talking a lot more than what can almost be read in mile per hour.
Right. And it's like the opposite of what actually happens, but you're still recreating the same the same things that you see in the crash, you will see in exactly what you're doing on the high G sled. So it's a very accurate way to replicate an incident. And then what we had done on the NASCAR side was we basically took a couple of the hardest hits and that we had ever seen, and started replicating them. And that's kind of where the NASCAR standards were set for the things that we were looking for and trying to obtain.
Gotcha. Now, now I've sat in a few of your seats. They're specially made for that person that they're handmade and ordered specifically for the person that is buying them. What was the first kind of car that you put a seat into, and was it a drag car? Was it an off road car? What was it?
Uh, Probably the first cars that I done was stock cars. In the area where we're at here in Charlotte, it's pretty common. But because of my crash test experience, I kind of expanded outwards. I got involved with some NASA stuff, and one of the things that we did up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is we actually took a 80th percentile dummy and had it completely scanned, and it was in a prone sitting position like you're in a recliner. And from that data that they had obtained from the scan, we took a 6 foot long 4x4 foot phenolic block and then CNC cavitated a seat into this block for the dummy so it fit perfectly. And then we took it and strapped it in, turned it sideways so the dummy was looking away. And then we proceeded to hit it at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 Gs. And what we learned was basically, if you don't have no movement, that the amount of time that you see that G that we're recreating was very short. Now, an 80 G impact sounds very severe. It can be, but what controls its severity is the duration. And when I say duration, we're speaking about timing, and we're actually talking about thousandths of a second. Now, if I was to come up and just slap you hard up the back of your head, that might be a 15 G impact for, let's say, 2 to 10 thousandths of a second. It's enough for you to feel it and get you upset. But if you was to have a 15 G impact to the back of your head for, let's say, a half a second, your head would probably be gone.
Right. I got you.
It's the time that you see in an incident.
Okay. Now, I mean, this is one thing that I wanted to do the podcast with you, because you can really kind of dumb it down for me and I can understand it, which that's one thing I really liked about talking with you at some of the expos that we've been at. Now, my podcast is basically pushed towards the off-road industry, Ultra Ford, Dirt Riot, that kind of stuff. And what's really popular in trail riding and used to be and still is in Ultra 4 and Dirt Riot racing is a suspension seat, which your seat is not a suspension seat by any means. Can you explain the difference and why your seat is actually better and safer than a suspension seat?
Well, a suspension seat really only gives you movement and control in an upward and downward motion. But with that being said, the seat belts and the placement of the seat belts on your body is the most important part of any seating system. The seat's not going to do nothing for you if you're not in it. And I need to know exactly where you're at so I can control your body and control your movement. Now, in a suspension seat, you're constantly moving in and out of your belt zones. So you're actually not getting the full ability of control from your seat belts. If you have a ratcheting lap belt, the more you tighten it, the more the seat goes down. It doesn't really tighten up on you as much. It's forcing you down. Now you're using up some of the stretch in the bottom of that suspension seat. If you hit something hard, we've been seeing a lot of tailbones getting broken, some backs. So yes, what I do is the total opposite of that. I have a controlled environment, and everything that I have come up from has been completely from all of my crash testing. And although when I introduced a lot of it, it was totally against the norm of what was being used and all the thoughts and theory processes out there, but my longevity, especially with the monster trucks and the off-road stuff that I've been doing, it's showing that for the extreme stuff, I don't think there's anybody that builds a safer seat than I'm presently doing, just because my seat is a lot different. I have a good amount of very high dense foam underneath your tailbone, but I also build the seat. When I do a custom built seat, I measure it. So I measure the seat and build it up behind your thighs. I want you sitting on your legs more than just your butt. So with the ribs of the seat being snug to you, the shoulder support touching your shoulders where they should be, basically your head support being right at your helmet, you don't have the ability to move laterally. And obviously, in a forward movement, we're depending upon your seat belts, but I also control the placement of the belts with the way I build the seat. And on vertical impacts, we can ride the energy out with the energy absorption foam that we have, but we're using your whole body, not just your butt. We're using the back of your legs. And when you have contact throughout your whole body, it's comfortable. But because of the seat belts, and I'm dealing with a lot of the ratchet belts right now and mounting them to the seat, which I get excited about because I'm now controlling the lap belt angle. And that's one thing that left up to the chassis builders and people. Usually your belts get mounted where they have room to mount them. And that may not be the correct place for you in your body. But when I'm building your seat and know where you're going to be, I can get the correct angles on the lap belts. And the belts mean so much. If you were to ride in my seat and take a couple bumps or jumps without your seat belts on, you probably wouldn't like the seat.
Right.
But it's the same idea of, lay an egg on a plate and move the plate up and down. Nothing happens to the egg. Now, put a space between the plate and that egg and drop the egg. That's when you have a possibility of fracturing the shell. You're the same thing. If your belts aren't tight enough and are allowing you to move up and down in the seat, well, when you come down, that's when you're going to feel that impact. So the tighter your belts are, the tighter you're in the seat, the less movement your body is. And the way I explain that to people in an easier form to understand is, if you can't swing a hammer, you cannot drive the nail. You can push on the nail all you want, but until you have space to create movement, to create a G-force impact, the higher the impact, the more the nail goes into the wood. The more room you have to swing, the harder you can have a G impact, the harder you can hit that nail. Now, with that being said, the driver is the hammer. And it's my job to control him and not give him room to move, because that's the biggest thing. I mean, having the best foams and everything is an attribute to what we do to give comfort, to reduce injury. But it's also the fact that we're controlling the body and we're only allowing necessary movement. Necessary movement is, I've been dealing and doing a lot of different things with the head supports. The monster trucks, I kind of plug the helmet in there. I'm finding out with a lot of the side-by-sides, because they're lighter, that's been doing a lot of survival racing, we're having some problems with the heads going back and forth too much. So I've come up with a different way to attach my head to my shoulders, and so far it looks to be pretty successful. But the thing is I like to get out. I like to go to the racetracks. I like to see my drivers. I like to look at the vehicles, and I have the ability to change anything and everything that I do. That's really what stands me apart from any other seat manufacturer, because anybody's seat, I don't care who it is, it's a cookie cutter seat. Mm-hmm. And they will not adjust that seat to fit your application. I have the ability to do that.
Nice. Yeah, and I know a lot of guys in the Ultra 4, and they just came out with a new seat, but it seems to be kind of just a a reproduction of what's been coming out. Like they were big on suspension seats. Now they're big on these solid seats. I think Sparco makes one, and Araco just came out with one too. But they're not like you said. It's cookie cutter seats that are not going to fit your body. Whereas what you do, you fit it directly to that person. And now I know that I sent a guy over to you at one of the expos. He was in a wheelchair. Did he end up buying? He was racing side by side, wasn't he?
Yep. I've built him. I've built 4 or 5 people that cannot use their legs, and I've got a couple guys that are racing side by side, and one of the gentlemen out there in Nevada and in Vegas, I believe he's won a bunch of races now that we've got set up. I've got him in 2-inch lap belts, the 7 points, the 3 crotch belts that really helps control your pelvis. That's very important because when you're sitting down in a sitting position, your center of your mass is your pelvis region. Plus, your pelvis is the strongest part of your body. So getting very aggressive with the lap belts and the crotch belts, it's a very smart thing for me to do because, a lot of the seats that are on the market now, you sit on them. My seat, you sit in it.
Gotcha.
Big difference. It's like take a big cardboard box and cut the front out of it, and then you sit down in it with the sides on each side of you. That's kind of what my seat looks like as compared to some of these other seats. You're just sitting on them. They don't really give you any lateral control. The only thing they're doing is giving you a little curvature in the back for comfort and maybe a little bit of foam on the bottom side. And unfortunately, a lot of these cookie cutter seats where the hole placement is, it's totally wrong. But you can't, it's hard to build one seat and try to make it fit 10 different body styles. That's where the custom aspect of it comes. I mean, not only am I going to place the seatbelt harnesses, the lap belts, the ribs, everything in the correct area, so it's working with your body to its highest ability to work and control your body. It's comfortable.
Gotcha.
That's the big thing you see is the comfort. So not only is it safer, but it's a whole lot more comfortable. And you can't do that with a cookie cutter seat. There's just no way. I'm presently working on I'm trying to come up with the closest thing to an adjustable cookie cutter seat. And it's hard, but when I come out with something, I'm sure it's going to be better than anything out there. But still, it won't compare to what you can gain out of a complete custom built seat. But at this point, I mean, I'm on the extreme side of is it a seat that you want to go out and just go riding on the weekends and just out booze cruising, whatever you want to say? No, it's probably not the thing that you want for that, but you can do it, which is cool for somebody who does take their race vehicle out and just does a little bit of riding with their friends. Yeah, you can still do that. You're going to find yourself wanting your seatbelts tight. Otherwise, you could be bouncing around inside the seat.
Now,
and,
do you?
And I did. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but do you make like an extreme safety seat, and then also one for like the trail rider that wants to be as safe as possible, but doesn't need all the head restraints and all that? Do you make one like that, or can you make one?
What I'm trying to do right now is come up with what I'm calling as a side by side seat, but it would be applicable in anything off road. Period. What I'm trying to do is productionize this thing so the cost element is down, but on the same hand, I'm also trying to leave it open to where you can also purchase a head and shoulder system to intensify your seat. It may not be a full-blown custom, but it will still allow me to control your upper torso so your head and your arms aren't, bouncing all over the place. And I'll definitely have the lap belt situated where it should be in the right position for you. So it will offer a lot better control than anything else on the market. I'm working hard on that. And hopefully I'll be having something come out this summer.
Good deal. Now, I did in preparation of this podcast, I asked a few racers if they'd ever, and I'm talking Ultra Four specifically racers, and the only thing they looked at your seats on your website and stuff, and the only thing that they said that they didn't want all that stuff around their head. Um, can you why for one, why do you need that stuff around your head? And then also, what is the visibility difference if they're running? I mean, they're going to be running a Hans whether they're in your seat or not. Is the visibility and the movement, is it really hindered in what you have, and if so, how much?
Well, the first thing you mentioned was the Hans. There's a number of different head neck devices. I will say that the Hans manufactured head support, which a lot of them get called the Hans. The Hans is the one thing that it works fine. It's a good piece. It's not for off-road. I suggest using the hybrid because it straps to you. It's short, has a lower profile. It will not catch getting in and out of your vehicle, where the Hans, you have a real problem in tight areas. If you see anybody using them, chances are they put them on with their helmet inside the vehicle and they don't climb out with them on.
Correct.
So with that being said, um, I'm sorry, what was your question as far as I got going on? I forgot.
Visibility and movement problems.
Okay. The visibility for, if you look at a lot of these cookie cutter so-called off-road seats, if they say they have head supports and shoulder support, they're kind of just at a 45-degree angle. They're not really controlling you a 180 direction or 90 degrees parallel to your spine. My head supports bolt together to the seat. You have the ability to move it. And I suggest that people mount it at the top of your cheek so your eye's up above it, which it does not hinder your peripheral vision. It gives you the ability to turn your head. A lot of people sit there and think to see the back of the right rear of the vehicle, they have to be able to reach their chin to their shoulder. They turn so much. That's not the case. Working with Jake Coughlin and the NHRA deal, we was working with a biomechanical physicist out of Ohio State University on foot reaction, trying to come off the clutch. Where's the best way to have the pivot of the foot? Is it a heel-toe movement or post your toes and then come off with the ball of your heel? But while we were at lunch, I asked this guy, and that specific question is peripheral vision. And he started going in there, and I asked him, I said, let's say we want to be able to see a span of 280 degrees, which would be 140 degrees each side of dead zero in front of your nose.
Mm-hmm.
And he got in his computer and his little program and come up, and he said, to see on a normal person's peripheral vision, to see the right rear of that car, you need to move your head to 11 degrees. 11 degrees is nothing. If you sit there and turn your head, that's not much at all either way.
Correct.
So the problem with peripheral vision, people don't think of that when they're purchasing a helmet. And the eye release on helmets float back and forth so much, people don't really pay attention to it. So that's one thing, if you're concerned with peripheral vision, you need to pay attention to. But ideally, my shoulders get mounted to you and they touch your shoulder. They don't hinder your steering. They don't hinder your shifting. They don't let you to do anything that you don't need to do to drive. But I'm controlling your head with my shoulders, because your head can't move much if your shoulders aren't moving.
Correct.
So there's a magic number that we don't want the head to move because we see injuries. But on the same hand, I use layered foams, a number of different foams. The way I cut the foam has a lot to do with me building a progressive shock that we're catching your helmet. I would rather have the foam touching your helmet on both sides in a soft foam build into a stiffer foam to a stiffer foam to a stiffer foam. So you've got a progressive shock, so it's not slamming your head back and forth. Now, The coefficient restitution of the foam is one of the big things that we deal with in the head area. You don't want a viscosity of foam to the point that it rebounds 50%. You don't want something like a memory foam or a contour foam, like where when you put your hand in that pillow and you pull your hand out and you still see your handprint.
Mm-hmm.
The first impact, that foam would work great. But when your head's going back and forth, the next time you get into it, it's just going to be like hitting bare metal.
Right.
Because it's not returning fast enough. But on the same hand, you don't want a rebound velocity pushing your head back out at the same velocity it went in. So the foams that I use in the head are very expensive and they're very controlled. But I know what we're trying to deal with here. And unfortunately, I've got a lot of experience with the customers, but every person is different. What bothers one person may not bother the other person. So it's really, I love working with my customers and talking to them. The more I learn, the better it is for anybody I deal with. And it's, the more problems I hear and I get to deal with, everything, there's an answer. You just got to know what the question is. So, it's really, communication is key. I like keeping an open door with all my customers. And I'm not saying, I'm talking about me, not somebody who works for me, me. And I got 24/7 with my cell phone and my customers. If I don't know, I can't fix anything if I don't know it's broke.
Correct.
But it's my job. The easiest way for me to explain it is it's a lot easier for me to hold a bowling ball than it is to catch a bowling ball. And the right seat belts, the mounting, that's what I'm doing is I'm holding that bowling ball, you as the driver, the hammer. I'm controlling that hammer so it's not swinging and it's not hitting nothing. And I'm dampening the blow. Going back to the duration, I mean, what happens in an impact is, let's say you get up in the air, you've hit some sort of a jump and you get hit at an angle. So now you get up too high and you're sticking the right front bumper, the front horn of the front clip is burying into the ground. That's a bad hit because you're going to stop immediately. And in my job, it's not how fast you're going, it's how fast you stop. That's the getter. And so as soon as you nose into that ground, if it's the right front of the vehicle, your body takes off to the point of impact immediately. Now, your head, your arms, your legs, everything's trying to come out of that seat, going to that point of impact. Now, your seat belts that do stretch are now turning it into an expensive rubber bands. So you're going to test the stretchability of your seat belts. And the farther you go out, the harder you're going to slam back in the opposite direction. Because again, I refer to them as rubber bands. So my point being, we're going back to the duration. When that frame comes up and sticks in the ground, the truck's incident is over. Your incident has just begun. You moving towards the impact and then coming back, that is lengthening your duration. So if the truck only saw a 1 millisecond, a 2 millisecond impact, you might be seeing as much as 4, 5, 6 milliseconds. The longer you're involved in that incident, the higher the probability you have of being injured. So what I try to do is writing your energy out. If we have to, let's deform that aluminum. It's strong, but it's going to slow you down. So it's going to keep the duration that you see in a shorter period of time.
Wow.
It's the biggest, the worst wrecks you have are not the most spectacular ones. The spectacular ones are when you're barrel rolling and bouncing. Every time you hit and roll and bounce, you're absorbing energy. Doing 100 miles an hour, you don't want to see a bridge abutment or a tree. Those are the ones that get you. It's how fast you stop.
And thanks for, I hate to say it this way, but dumbing it down to the person like me that doesn't quite understand, that hasn't gone to the depths of what you have, and that's why you make a good seat. Do you suggest or an actual like a hybrid or a Hans device that works great with the ISP seats? And do you sell them, or is it all together?
Yeah, Simpson is the owner of the Hans and the hybrid. I sell both. I highly The hybrid is the only one on the market. It has double tethers. It's got the tether comes off the back to your helmet at your ear, but it also has a tether that comes up off your chest line or your collarbone. So it does actually, especially if you're in a suspension seat or a seat without a head and shoulder system, it does give you some lateral movement control where a
Cool.
Han doesn't.
Okay, so you
In,
basically you
in a good containment seat, they all work.
okay.
But now we're not just worried about that. It's like, can we get in and out of the car quickly? And when I mean quickly, I am a very big person of telling people to get a stopwatch out and test yourself getting out of that car. If you go to get out of the car, if something's snagging your pants and slowing you down, move it. It's just taking care of whatever could slow you down. It's just preventative maintenance. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize, your quick release don't have to be on the back of your steering wheel, because most people pop the quick release off, take their steering wheel. Now they got 6 inches of steering shaft that catches their fire suit trying to climb out. Well, build a 6-inch extension. Put the release 6 inches away from the steering wheel. So when you take it off, you're taking off that 6 inches of steering shaft. Now you've opened up that box that you're climbing out of tremendously. And especially the bigger guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. This is something that I see a lot of over in the door slammers, the pro mods, the pro stocks over in drag racing. And I've kind of carried that over into the monster trucks. And most all the Feld trucks are actually doing that now. But I've been pushing that a lot with a lot of my customers, just worried about their time and getting in and out of the vehicle.
Correct. Yeah, because if it's on fire, you're in a hurry and you're not thinking, and then not to mention you'll rip a fire suit, catch yourself, not get out in time. I mean, there's just everything that can happen in that one small moment, and having that most space makes a huge difference.
If it's on fire and you're stuck, it's hard knowing that you got to go back into that fire.
Yep. Wow. Well, cool. Now, I mean, in conjunction with your seat, with a Hans hybrid next gen style neck restraint, seat belts is the next. Who would you suggest, or do you sell your own product for seat belts? Who would you suggest that doesn't have that elasticity, or is the elasticity actually good?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I mean, I was always told years ago by SFI, FIA being Europe, that we needed X amount of stretch on belts. And after I'd done my testing up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I got on the phone with Hubert Gramling, which at the time was president of FIA out of Germany. And me and Hubert had been together at a few conferences and actually shared time in the sled lab together. So he knew of me, I knew of him. And I called him up and started talking to him about how much stretch do we need in the belts and this and that. And I kind of locked him up. I said, Hubert, I said, I've got some testing data that we have just done. And I can prove to you that no movement is better than any movement. And I said, give me one example that you had somebody hurt of a belt system that didn't have enough stretch. I said, we got a lot of too much stretch. They get away into the steering wheel with their chest, their helmet goes all the way out and hits the forward hoop. I mean, we got tons of that. Show me one scenario of what you guys say that we can't allow, that we need stretch. Show me where it shows that we need stretch. And I kind of got him all locked up, and he couldn't prove that. And I got him thinking. I placed the same phone call to Arnie Coons, and it kind of locked him up because they've always followed this theory, and theories are fine till they're proven wrong in the test lab, and that's where I've stirred a lot of things. Is when I started doing my testing and building my seats, I was going against what everybody was saying. And I wasn't just doing it, I was showing them. I had crash test data, not doing it once or twice, but 5, 6, 7 times in a row, showing the repetitiveness, the robustness of what we were doing was working. And it was simple, taking little steps, getting to where we're at now as far as the belt angles. Seat belts, you have to concern yourself. The first thing is with the webbing. Is it nylon or is it polyester? Polyester is what's in every single vehicle sold throughout the world. If it comes off the assembly line, it's polyester seat belts. Nylon is in the racing market, and it's one of the reasons why you have to change your belts out every 2 years. Over in Europe, where you can't have nylon, belts are good for 5-year stints. Okay, with that being said, if you've ever had a yard chair set out in the sun and you go to sit in it in your backyard and all the straps bust and your butt falls through it, that's typical nylon. Dry rots very quickly. Nylon draws in moisture. It's almost like a sponge. And anytime you do any type of static or dynamic testing, stuff off the same roll is very inconsistent at its breaking point. Thus, being polyester is very repetitive. So that's why your better seat belts are going to be made out of polyester. The second thing you do is you take a look at your hardware. Now, is this a punch piece, press piece that come out of Thailand on a boat? Or is this a forged piece of hardware that looks forged, that looks like a solid piece of hardware? Then you need to pay attention to the sewing on the belts. All this together, the hardware that you're using, I mean, there's a reason why you need a $300 set of belts, not a $99 set of belts. Believe me, you get what you pay for, and I cannot say enough about the seat belts being the heart of any seat system. If I can't keep you in the seat, how's my seat going to do anything for you?
Right, exactly. Well, man, this has been very informative to myself, and I'm sure it'll actually it'll help out a lot of guys that are getting into racing, that are in racing. Like I said, I talked to you a little bit before the podcast that I was talking to some of the big racers in Ultra 4, and they were just releasing another seat, and it seemed to be just another cookie cutter seat, just like you said. So maybe this will get them a little bit more informed about it. And there's no price on safety, guys. I actually had a good friend of mine that took a tumble at Ultra 4 Nationals, and he ended up having back surgery on the whole deal. And I wouldn't say it was seat related or seatbelt related, but something happened, and he didn't come out of it as good as we all expected. But now you do have is Innovation Safety Products, is that right?
Innovative Safety Products.
Yeah, at .com. I guess you have a website, correct?
Yeah. Innovative Safety. It's ispseats.com is the website.
Okay, ISP Seats, and you're at a lot. You're going to be at PRI, I guess, is next, right?
Yep.
And then where are you at right now? You mentioned that you were at a race right now.
Yeah, I'm at the World of Outlaws World Finals. They're running the sprint cars, the World Outlaws, the World Outlaw late models, and the Northeast dirt mods. So cool. It was a good track last night qualifying on a half-mile track. These sprint cars were doing like 12 and a half seconds. So,
geez. Now, and also this isn't just your seats aren't just in. I mean, they're all over the automotive industry. You've got them in what aspects of racing do you have your seats in? Completely all over the. What other cars do you have your seats in? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I've got cars in every form of NASCAR, from the Cup, the big boys, all the way down through the trucks. All the modifieds. Those are all SFI seats that have requirements that we have to have our seat tested, and they have to bear the SFI tags. Dirt late models, every rock bouncer, side by sides, everything from pro stock, pro mods. I do the head supports and pour and place seats for a lot of the dragsters and the funny cars and NHRA, a lot of the alcohol burning cars. Basically, I deal with a lot of stuff, and I do want to say that my best growing curve, the people that teaches me the most out of every form of racing. I deal with the IRL, I deal with FIA. The monster trucks teach me more than anybody else I deal with because they wreck on purpose every time they go out.
I'll agree with that. And in fact, I think basically the way we met was through Mark McDonald, which he races. He's El Toro Loco is who he drives, right?
They've moved him around some. I talk to him on Facebook every now and then. He called me a couple weeks ago, but I don't know what fire suit he's wearing this year. Yeah. I think he just left for Europe to start doing some European shows here last week or something.
Yeah, he posted on Facebook. I gave him a hard time. He said he was headed to Tokyo, and this would be the only time that he's the tallest guy anywhere around. So.
Yeah. Mark's a good guy. And that's one thing I really like about dealing with the off-road guys in the monster truck is they're down-to-earth people. Yeah. I mean, I deal with every form of professional racing, and being politically correct, I like my monster truck and my off-road people. They're just good down-to-earth people. They're average Joes. They work with you and talk with you. And, I do want to throw it out there. I do a lot of safety seminars and stuff, because I do feel that I've been very fortunate to deal with all the manufacturers, Ford, Chrysler, IRL, NHRA, that has funded a lot of my crash testing. I've done up over 100 sled hits. And, the one thing I felt was the most important thing for me to do is I can't save everyone, but maybe I can educate a lot of people. And I like to spend time with my customers. I like to educate them on the proper things. A lot of people don't even know that you have options, belts and stuff. That's what I'm able to bring to the table with my customers and explain to them why you need a head and neck device. I'm sure you know Busted Knuckle Films, correct?
Oh yeah, I know Matt very well.
Okay, well, there's the Busted Knuckles Rock Garage Tips. Mm-hmm. The Rod Garage Tips. I done 3 segments with Jake Berkey in his garage. One on containment seats, one on head and neck devices, and one on seatbelts. And I encourage anybody to go out there on YouTube and pull that up. And that's been a really good sales tool for myself, because I love it when people just call questions. And I mean, I love to educate people, because the way I feel is if somebody knows and understands something so well, you should be able to explain it to anybody so they understand it. And I would hope that you would feel that the guy that can explain it and understands it that well is hopefully the guy you want to deal with.
Correct.
Because if you ask any of these questions to any of these people selling these cookie cutter seats, they're just going to look at you cross-eyed. They're pushing a part number in a box, and that's all they know.
Right.
And they're going to sit there and tell you they're the best, they're better. Why? Well, that's where they kind of get locked up.
Right. Exactly. And no, I agree with you. And I think one of the first times that you and me sat down, I actually sat down in one of your seats, and I was at this point in time, I think this was 4 years ago, 2015 Expo. And I said, I was just sold on suspension seat. And I said, well, what makes this better? And honestly, when you first look at the seat, I kind of thought of it, and this is coming from an not knowledgeable idea in my head. I was like, well, that's just that's just basically a Kirky seat or a plastic seat that I hear about people breaking their back on all the time. But then you sat down, explained it to me, dumbed it down to me, and I've been sold on your seat forever. And I know if I know oh the only I'm trying to think of who in Ultra 4 actually has your seat. I know you're building some for Quentin Hilburn.
Right.
Um, and
Josh
then
King.
rock bouncing, I'm sure Jake Berkey has your seat, correct?
Oh yeah, Jake, Timmy Cameron. I mean, most all the top guys in the points, all those divisions are in my stuff now. It's kind of like a secret once you figure it out. I got a lot of testimonies. It could go on and on forever, but that's why I do what I want to do. I want to make a difference,
Right.
and I build this stuff not just building it for comfort, but I'm building it to save your life. And I mean, I'm straight up. I mean, the seat that I'm building right now, you're looking between $1,400-$1,500. Obviously, if you want powder coat and stuff like that, it's an add-on. But today, let's not even go to the hospital. What's the cost? Go to the doctor and get a couple X-rays.
Exactly.
I mean, $1,400 is not just an investment; it's an insurance policy. And by the time you get some good looking belts, about $300. I love the 7-point system. That's one thing I haven't talked about was the seat belts. The 7-point system has 3 crotch straps, and everybody's familiar with the 5-point strap because that's what most everybody uses. Well, the 5-point crotch strap was invented in 1938 by the Marines launching planes off an aircraft carrier out of Florida. They started launching a certain type of plane off, and at the angle they were sitting, the pilots were raising up in the seat. Well, they put that crotch in there. They called it 5-point strap, and that's what it's always been ever since. But it's not designed to stop you from moving forward. It's designed to stop you from rising up. Well, if you think of geometry the way you use it, that makes sense. That's why it busts your nads when you move forward.
Mhm.
Now, with that being said, we add 2 more crotch straps, one at each side of that one, and they mount into the butt and the bottom of the seat, and they wrap the inside of your thighs. That geometry is what holds you back. That's a 7-point seat belt system. That is what I've been pushing a lot. People that use it the way I recommend using it is getting very positive results from it. And your pelvis being the center of your mass, it's also the bottom of your fulcrum, meaning your head is the other. If I can reduce an inch of movement in your pelvis, I can reduce 4 to 5 inches of movement in your head. So, a good 7-point seatbelt system, you're talking about as low as $300 for the best hardware, the best of everything. We want to throw a ratchet in there. You're looking around $400. If you're looking at double ratchets, you're looking around $500. But I'm here to tell you, a $99 set of belts is worth $99. And if that's all you're worth, then go ahead. These people spend $1,500, $2,000 a year on a new fire suit and $1,000 on a new helmet and get it painted. But they don't think of that seat and their seat belts, and that's the most important thing.
Right.
Is you not moving around getting hurt. So for a couple $1,000, you get a good seat, a good set of seat belts, and possibly we can work with you and get you head supports, head neck device in there too. But no, it's not a $700-$800 cookie cutter seat. No, it's not. But
Right.
it doesn't perform like a $700-$800 cookie cut seat either.
Right.
It's custom built to you, and it contains and controls. You sit in it, not on it.
Right. Well, man, Kris, I appreciate all the information. You blew it out of the park with this one. Everybody's going to listen to this, and hopefully, they understand that you can't put a price on safety, and then not to mention there's a lot of um, small things that go into safety. So you're safe no matter what you're doing. As crazy as these guys are racing, um, I'm not a racer myself, but I do enjoy watching it and being a part of it. And I want everybody to be safe so I can watch you do it again. Like I saw Lauren Healy do like 7 flips a couple years ago, and I'm like, man, I hate to see that you wrecked, but I was glad to see you walk away and everything was fine. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this. go to ispseats.com, and you could that'll go directly to you too if you email them through there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
KRIS Chris
Mhm.
at seats.com is my email.
Okay. You can talk to him directly. He's also on Facebook. You can check him out on Facebook. Are you on IG, Instagram?
No, I'm not that high tech yet.
I just got done doing a podcast with Gene Mooningham, which he's been around for a long time. He's been a part of the Ultra 4 series for about 10 or 15 years. And I had sent him a message. I said, "Hey man, I'd love to do a podcast with you." And he goes, "What the hell's a podcast?"
Oh,
So I got him.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm up there too. So
Well, good.
understand.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Go back out there and watch those guys go rounding round. And hopefully I'll see you here soon. I might make it to PRI because you've got a booth at PRI, right?
Yeah. If you ain't ever been to PRI, that's where the serious racers go. So I highly suggest going out there. 3 days. If you're going to spend time in each booth, it's going to take you 3 days to go through everything. But that's where you cut deals with the manufacturers, see the latest and greatest that they have to offer, and you have the engineers, the inventors there at the table to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Well, Kris, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope this is informational for a lot of people. And man, we'll talk to you soon.
Well, hopefully I stirred some questions and some ideas, and I'll hear somebody call and have a few good questions for me. And if I can't answer them, I'll send you to the right person that can.
All right, cool. Thanks, Kris. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Thank you, Hitch.
All
Bye.
right, bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Kris Vangilder with ISP, Innovative Safety Products. You can find them on the website, ispseats.com. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. I know that you were at the racetrack at one of the nationals right then, and you sat in your truck and basically did the interview with me. I do appreciate it, and I hope it actually helps you and also saves somebody somewhere in the off-road racing industry, or even, I mean, even in the on-road industry. I know you're running some of your stuff through NASCAR. So in NASCAR trucks and cars. So thank you very much for hanging out, guys. I hope you liked this podcast. If you did, like I said before in the beginning, please like, comment, subscribe on every single platform that you listen to this on. That what that does is that boosts the social media algorithm, and that tells everybody else that you enjoyed the podcast, you liked it, and get them to listen to it, which will in turn bring more people to the podcast, which will in turn again get it to where we can continue to do this. This takes a lot of time, a lot of scheduling, a lot of editing. So it's not, and I'm basically I'm a one-man show, so I do it all by myself, and it takes a lot of time out of my schedule to do it. I do have a full-time job, as most of you know this. I'm in the oil industry, but it's not the real good oil industry. It's just a consistent job. So thank you so much, guys. We are on 10 different places. We're on numerous places. So all you got to do is Google search See You on the Trail podcast. On the See You on the Trail, no spaces, just spell it out, and then space podcast. You should be able to find it somewhere. Right now, like I said, I was looking at the stats earlier. It looks like we're mainly on Apple, and then also YouTube and Facebook. YouTube and Facebook, the numbers have been really good. I want to congratulate my last podcast interviewee that I had was Gene Mooningham. He's actually on Facebook. He's actually surpassed views than Jason Shearer, which I thought was amazing because he even told me, do you think anybody actually wants to hear my story? And apparently people do, because they're listening to it, which we really do enjoy that. I try to find some obscure but well-known people to do the shows with us, as long as as well with some popular people. So thanks, guys, again. I do appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, anything. If you want to share it in some Facebook groups or some Instagram chats or whatever, we would really appreciate it. Make sure and go and follow all of us on social media. ISP Seats, Innovative Safety Products is what they are on Facebook. ispseats.com. You can find them there. Find me, See You on the Trail, no spaces, just spell it out on Facebook, IG, Twitter, and you can find us just about anywhere on the internet. We're usually looking for stuff. We're in groups. Um, we're on different pages that help out. I manage about 10 different other social media pages, so we cross promote as other businesses. We do work together. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And this is Hitch, and we'll see you on the trail.